Hello everyone and welcome to week 10 of our English composition class. Congratulations, you finished the major assignment for the semester, which was the academic research paper. You advocated for change in schools. Those were due on Sunday, and we're moving into our final couple weeks here of the class. And you only have a few more assignments left, and I think these are going to be a little more maybe engaging and exciting assignments, perhaps, because it's going to be narrative writing, which I know is sometimes a relief after doing a lot of academic writing. Let me turn this fan off. There we go. I wanted to highlight a few ideas about narrative essays and then preview what we're going to be doing this week and then what's coming up in our final week. So, narratives are personal writing, they're personal stories, and in general it's probably one of the things that we do the most when we're talking to friends and telling them what happened during our day. That's a narration. Usually a narration has a point about life, something that the writer wants to express about the world we live in, what it means to be human, what it means to be a good friend, or whatever the theme of the narrative is. Usually that point of life is about the theme, or again, the big idea about life. So let's talk through this really quick. Narratives have a few goals. You need to have a clear context. So you're going to be using time, transition, time words. Think about stories when you tell them to people. First I went here, then I went there, finally I went back home. First, then, finally, next. Dates, months, hours, seasons. Those are all parts of the narrative context. And since you're going to be writing a short narrative next week, you want to use a few of these to clue the reader into what's going on chronologically in the story. And as we know, transitions help move from one paragraph to the next. They're bridges between ideas, and in narratives, usually those involve time. This is my favorite part about narratives. You get to choose well-chosen and thoughtfully emphasized details. What's that mean? Well, you get to use adjectives, colors, smells, sounds, images. You can be creative with narratives. Some of my favorite storytellers in my life really choose well thought out, well-positioned details. And so have fun with this when you're writing. And in particular, when you're reading the stuff for this week, look for those well-chosen details. Think about, in White Lies, the narrative that you're going to read, what details does the author use to create that story, create an image in your head of what that story might look like, sound like, feel like. The details are all about visceral things, so things that we experience with our senses. Now, chronological order transitions, I talked a little bit about that already. That's part of that clear context. Again, use those to move through the narrative. The point of view is going to be yours. I've written a lot of times this semester in academic papers, don't use I statements, don't use personal belief statements. If you want to use a narrative in the beginning of an academic essay, that's generally considered okay, but certainly in body paragraphs you don't want to. For narratives, you are using I statements. You are using personal belief statements. You are writing about your own experience. And so I is certainly going to be the point of view most of these narratives come from. And finally, just like great stories, the best ones have a point about life, a meaningful point or a meaningful purpose. White Lies, the narrative that we're going to be reading for this week, has a few different ideas about life. Certainly there's ideas in it about how kids treat each other, but secondly there's an idea at the end about memory and how our memories work over time and how sometimes even our memories trick us into believing that we were better than we actually were. So when you're thinking about your narrative, what you might want to write about, think about a story that you have that proves something about life, a point about life that's important to you. For your narratives next week that you're going to be writing, it doesn't have to be extremely confessional or personal. It can be a story that even you heard from somebody else about something. Usually stories about the writer themselves, and they want to tell about how they came to this decision or how they came to that point in their life or that change in their life. But we'll talk about that next week. That's for next week, our last week. This week, you're just going to be doing some narrative research. You're going to be looking in a textbook. You're going to be reading White Lies. There's a reading response for that. And then finally, we have a discussion assignment that asks you to go to a website called The Moth. That's a story competition where people, not even just a competition, a story performance where people get on stage without notes and share a story. Some of them are pre-written and memorized, and you have to choose one just to listen to and summarize a few things back for the discussion assignment. All right, that's what I got for you this week. Again, congratulations on finishing that academic research paper, and I will be talking to you soon.